Alright, let's say you wanted to create a line from point to point. You really weren't sure the steps to do that. You could go back to your wireframe surface book, and you may recall I showed you the sitemap. Under the sitemap, we have creating lines. Okay, the other way I showed you was if I go back a page here and I go back another page, it's actually going to be faster if I just start a whole new home page. So even if you had to go back to the first page, solution is mechanical. The book or user guide, wireframe and surface. What I really like is the workbench description. Because when I go to the workbench description, I go to toolbars and it shows me all the toolbars, and I'm working with the wireframe toolbar, so I just click on that. And the next one they have is lines. You click on that, and it shows me how to create lines. So I can create an axis or polyline. If I click on creating lines, they have 5 different ways to create lines, or 6 different ways. So the one I'm trying to do is point to point, which is the one that defaults here. If I click on point to point, I think it just jumps down there. It says to click the line feature. Pick point number 1 is step 2, and step number 3 is select the second point, is what it should say. This is a French-Canadian translation over to English, so sometimes some of the things they say don't make sense. But what I do when I'm using this, I just follow the numbers, and I don't read all the other stuff. That's just more stuff confusing me. So I just look at what it says for the steps. So step 3 says to select the second point, and then if needed, don't need to do that, don't need to do this. I can go right down to step 7 and say okay. So again, step 1 is pick line, step 2 is in this input field you're going to pick one point, and then the input field you pick another point, and then you say okay, according to these steps here. So I go back to CATIA, I go to line, and I pick point number 1. And remember how I have such a hard time grabbing the points? I just go right off the tree. Point 1 to point 2. You see in the pop-up window, point 1 and 2 is picked. It's just going to create a line from point to point. That's all it's going to do. How do I keep this on to create the remaining 3 lines? I just double click it. I'll just pick point 2, point 3, and hit enter. Point 3 and point 4 and hit enter. Point 4 and then point 1 and hit enter. Whoops. I'm going to go and line number 5 I don't need, so I'm going to cancel line number 5. And there are your 4 lines using the points. Okay, and the start and end is at 0, meaning that it's not going to go past the points. It goes right to the points. All right, that's how you create lines 1 through 4.